Welcome back to Post Media One-on-One. I'm Bruce Garrioch, pleased to be joined today by Steve Staios, the President of Hockey Operations and General Manager for the Ottawa Senators. And Steve, you're joining me this morning from Long Island, and we really appreciate your time. Your team passed the midway point of the regular season, and you're in the mix for a playoff position, and you certainly control your own destiny. You must feel good about where your team is at right now.
Well, we feel good about taking a step forward, Bruce. We talked about that, and along with the roster construction and build, it's also creating the environment for these players, this group, to take the next step. So certainly we've dealt with some things, some adversity. We've dealt with some very solid play, and then there was a point in time where it dropped off, but we regained that, and I think all of those things during a season are important to building the culture and continuing to take steps with the group.
One of the things I've talked to Travis Green about in the past, and it's okay for guys like me or fans to ride the roller coaster, Steve. And I think when you went through that rough stretch in November, everybody went, "Oh my God, here we go again." But one of the things that Travis Green has tried to do is change the mindset. And do you think that's a full-time, not a full-time job, but a big part of having the success is not forgetting what happened in the past and just looking to the future?
I think it's been a big part of it, Bruce, really, he even used the line, "I'm trying to eliminate what's happened in the past 7 years." And that's a daily occurrence, because these players have gone through, some tough times. And, from how I handle situations and Travis handles situations and showing the confidence in the group, keeping things steady and moving forward, we feel like it's the best approach for this group. But certainly Travis, I think, his demeanor behind the bench. I mean, he's got a great ability to, hold players accountable and get the most out of them. But he's also got open lines of communication. So I think there's many reasons why or how we can take that next step. And it takes time when you're looking to create a culture that's different from what it was in the past. We have to be consistent as general manager and as head coach and our assistant coaches to create that environment. We have to be consistent in our approach. And then we feel like it's going to trickle down to the players.
I look at the first 41 games, and you certainly dealt with some inconsistency. And I asked you about this on Sunday when you did your availability, but how do you find consistency? You can't just flip a switch and find it, I know, but what are the keys to finding your group finding consistency?
Well, again, I think it comes from myself or the coaching staff, but creating that environment on a daily basis and communicating that to the group. I think the other 31 teams are looking for the same thing. And I think you can see that other than, 2 or 3 teams, the rest of the league has dealt with the swings. And as you can see with the parity right now, finding that consistency, if you lose your game, can you lose it for just 2 or 3 rather than a stretch of 5 or 6? And each point is so valuable right now. And I don't think it's ever been this close. So that will be the key to teams that do eventually take that step, is finding that consistency over it. But how do you find it? I think it has to do with the approach, and it has to do with the mindset, and it has to do with the environment that you create around the group to keep things calm.
One of the things you really touched on in training camp, and I think you've seen, is internal growth. Where have you seen the internal growth with your core group of players? Because you challenge them to take their game to another level this season.
Each one of them has taken their game to another level. The maturity and leadership of Brady and his consistent play. Tim playing away from the puck. I can speak to all of these players. Drake getting to the inside. All of those. We knew that they have that in them, and it's full credit to them, because they've shown that they've put in the work and they're committed to getting better, not just as individuals, but to help the team grow as well. And Travis Green has a long history of getting the most out of individuals, and we're seeing that happen. And the exciting thing for Ottawa Senators fans is that and for us as a group is that there's still more. We know that there's going to be more, and it takes time, but all of their games are growing. The internal growth of this group is taking that next step, and in turn, I think they're doing it as individuals, and it's showing as a group.
One of the things you pointed to on Sunday is the growth in the play of Thomas Chabot. What have you seen there that you've liked, Steve? You're a former defenseman, so.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you brought him up, because we do talk about that young core, and Thomas, because he's a couple years older, the growth, it goes to show you that it doesn't matter at what age, but you can still grow your game. And Thomas has made a commitment to the defensive side of it. We've seen and we've marveled at his skill and his ability to break pucks out and skate around the ice, and how smooth he is. But now there's some substance to his defending as well. And so he's made that commitment, and his game has grown. I have to mention Nick Jensen as well, a veteran player that comes in. You philosophically, you go through an off season, you're looking to try, and I talked to you about balancing out the roster and how that might look. And I've always been fond of Nick's game. I've followed him for a while, and in your mind, you feel like this should be a good fit. And then it's nice to see it in action on a nightly basis, and the consistency of that pair has been really solid.
Well, would you like to see your defense still a little bit more involved in the offense? I looked this morning. I think you ranked 31st in points from your defense. How do you? But there's a fine line, because how do you do that and not sacrifice defense, right? Like I guess that's kind of a mindset with your old team, isn't it?
And Travis has spoken about it too. I think the greatest area of improvement for our group has been on the defensive side, the commitment to the defensive side. And we believe that, and it's been proven that if you need to be able to defend to become a playoff team, and then eventually a contender. And we're only half a season into it with this group and with this coaching staff. Travis wants to add layers to this group. He's never deviated from wanting us to create offense, but when you emphasize defense so much, it really is a balance. And I'm hopefully seeing some signs on the second half that we can continue to raise our offensive production and chances for. We certainly feel like we have the talent to do it. And in games that we're going, you see our defense are involved. It's not like we're sitting back for sure, but I guess the hope is that we get a little bit more confidence with our offense and start to score some more goals.
One of the things that has been good for your team certainly has been the test. I don't know if it's a good thing, but your depth has been put to the test, mainly because of injuries. But you've shown good depth. And how important is that in everything?
It's massively important. And, I'm not going to sit here and dwell on the injuries, because every team has to deal with it. It's a tough league, and certainly we feel like we've been hit quite hard right now as far as the number of players that we have out. But, part of my job is to continue to look at the roster and see how we can improve. And, like every general manager, you make calls and you start exploring what may be available. But I think this is an important point for us, because we've emphasized the growth, the amount of attention that we're putting into Belleville and the American Hockey League and the feeder system. And when we constructed the roster at a training camp and we had a number of players moving down to Belleville, I was very clear to them that you're not getting cut. You're going to another extension of our organization, and it's critically important for the development and growth of our group. So those players went down. I feel like they went down with a bit of a different attitude, because you can always be disappointed to come out of camp and not, making the big club. But I think it's been proven, like the players that have come up have been prepared to make an impact for us. And by going out and making trades and not evaluating your internal depth, you might miss on some players. And we've had some players come up and been very good for us at certain times of the year.
I love a trade as much as the next guy, probably more than most. But I also understand you're not just going to give up assets to make a trade either, right? Like you'll do that if you find the right fit. But clearly, if you got the answers within too, you're okay.
Yeah, and when we're finding that out, I mean, we're getting to see these players come in and play in those roles, and if we feel like there's something, now we have a proper evaluation of them. We've created this environment where the players have a chance to grow. We've created the environment in Belleville where they've had a chance to grow, and we want to see what we have within our organization. We're still continuing to look to see other areas to be able to improve, but certainly we've been pleased with the players who have come up and given us some time.
Just a couple more things before I let you go. Just on, and I know you've been asked about Linus Ullmark. You don't want to put a timeline on that because is that because it's the back, Steve, and you just never know? I mean, that's a day-to-day kind of injury, not a like we've all had sore backs and you can feel fine one day and not great the next, right? But you are hoping he's progressing.
Well, we know he's progressing, yes, and so we're confident in what we've put in front of him as far as him coming back and putting the rehab program in place. But I think it's critically important that you never want to rush this along. And with any of our players, we want to make sure that once Linus does return, that he's going to have no issues moving forward. So it's hard, again, it's hard to put a timeline on it, but he certainly is progressing. You know,
David Perron and Michael Amadio are two other players who are progressing, and I thought that Noodles made a good point on the broadcast the other night. He said getting David Perron back would be a little bit like a trade deadline acquisition. Look, he went through some things off the ice with his family, you know, and the organization treated him well. He now is going through the injury he's got right now, but he's close to returning. He can still be that veteran presence you were getting when you signed him, right?
Well, we're confident in that. I mean, the competitiveness of this player will not go away. We know that. He's a driven individual, and we look forward to getting him back in because, you know, he has a presence, and the way he goes about his business and the way he plays the game could have a real impact on our group.
Now, David Bell was on TSN 1200 here this morning, and he said that Mads Søgaard and Tyler Boucher are out right now. Is Søgaard long term, or are you looking at that? And just on Boucher?
Yeah, I mean, really unfortunate because two players that have really showed some promise more recently as well. Like Tyler's had some injuries, as everybody knows, but man, he was playing. You know, he had found his game, so it's unfortunate, but. You know, he's a strong kid and mentally he'll be able to get through it, and we'll help him through that. And looking forward to seeing his progression in the second half once he is back. And similar to Søgaard, I mean, both talented prospects in our prospect pool that we're looking forward to getting back and getting healthy. And we put like injuries happen. We understand that. We want to do the best within the organization to provide all the resources to provide them the support while they're going through it and making sure that they're fully healthy once they're back.
Two more things. Brian Murray used to tell me that at the trade deadline, sometimes he liked to add just to send a message to his team. Do you want to see where you're kind of at the break and then really kind of dig down on whether to add to this group?
I guess, yeah, time will tell. I mean, we still have some runway leading into the trade deadline. We have some time, but it's really nice to be having these conversations with how the group has performed for sure. But I'm not only willing, but I would be open to adding and doing what we need to do at the right time. Again, watching our depth continue to grow with this group, I think we'll find out a little bit more about our group from now until that opportunity comes up.
One thing I did want to ask about, and I think I'd be remiss if I didn't, Steve, is your boss sold the Brantford Bulldogs. I mean, you have a long history with that team. Mm-hmm. Must be a bit of a tough day for you. You know, given I mean, that's where you cut your teeth in management for sure.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's a little emotional for sure because you know, like we're doing with the Ottawa Senators, you pour your heart into it and you're there on the day to day. And we watched that organization grow with the similar principles and philosophies that we're using here in Ottawa, just obviously on a different scale. But certainly, it was a wonderful chapter in my life, professionally and personally. The real joy of junior hockey, the championships were those MasterCard moments that we had, and to got to share that with the players and with families and friends and billets. But I think the one thing about junior that I can look back fondly upon is the impact that we had on the individuals. We helped them get to become better players and better athletes, but better people as well. And we really emphasized on that and creating that environment for them. And they're at that influential age between 16 and 20, and still get messages from a lot of those players. And some of them aren't even playing anymore, but they're off to school. And that's the real joy of what we were able to accomplish in the Ontario Hockey League.
And I think, number one, Michael said he wants to spend more time in Belleville, and you also know with the Hyman family, it's going into good hands. Yes,
I know. Yeah, I'm confident of that for sure. But certainly from my perspective, when I made the leap initially, right from Hamilton to the Edmonton Oilers and worked there for a year, it was, you're still sort of keeping track of it, but that was when I was, you don't have the time to be able to do it. And now, obviously, with the effort and time that we're putting into Ottawa and Belleville, and I think from Michael's point of view, he was feeling that he wanted to spend more time in Belleville and was getting pushed a little bit or pulled in too many directions at that time. So again, it was a great chapter, though.
Well, Steve, we really appreciate your time today. Good luck in the second half of the season, and hopefully we can do these on the eve, next one of these on the eve of your first playoff game.
Wouldn't that be great? Yeah.
Steve Staios, President of Hockey Operations and General Manager for the Ottawa Senators. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Bruce.